In this video, I will go over several ways to apply decals to a car. I will help you learn the basic functions of Rizom-UV and Substance Painter. I will also apply decals in Blender using polygons with the shrink wrap modifier. The video is divided into different chapters to make it easier for you to navigate. I hope this video will help answer most of your questions related to applying decals. Let's get started. First, I need a car, and I chose the new Porsche 911. This car is great for applying decals, but you can choose any other one. The methods described in this video will work for any car. For beginners, I can recommend these cars. These cars will be easy to unwrap since most of the surfaces are smooth. If you already have a setup car with materials, you can skip this part. I imported the model into Blender, but it's too big. For reference, I left a 2-meter cube. I opened the panel with the N key and set the scale parameter to 0.001. The model is now back to the correct size. Using the 3D cursor, I position it at the center. Then, I set the origin to the center of the scene. Now I separate the model into different parts to make it easier to apply materials. I also create folders that I will later hide for easier material organization. After separating the main parts I need, I split the model using buy loose parts. This makes it easier to select the interior since it will have a single material. I deleted the right front headlight. Both headlights have too many details, so later I will add a mirror modifier to the remaining one. The brake disc and pads will be divided into 3 materials. To do this, I will add 3 folders. The tire will have 2 materials but remain a single object. As I mentioned, the tire will have 2 materials. The main rubber material will be the same, but the sidewall material will have a texture that I previously prepared in Photoshop. I split the screen into 2 parts, one for UV unwrapping and the other for the viewport. I named the first material Tire Sidewall and assigned it to the sidewall polygons. For the second material, Tire, I assigned it to the remaining polygons by inverting the selection and pressing Assign. Let's split the screen again into another part, which will display the materials panel. This is how the 2 materials look. This one is for the main part of the tire, and this one is for the sidewall. Now, let's move on to the brake disc. It also has an unwrapping, and I have a texture prepared for this part. Here, I'll go into more detail. We'll create the materials for the brake disc from scratch. The disc is also divided into 2 parts, just like the tire. I assign one material to the outer part, and another material to the rest of the disc. I added the texture and assigned it to the roughness channel. Now I move on to the caliper. It will have a different material. I add a noise texture and connect it to the normal channel. The brake pads and other small parts will have a different material. Now I quickly set up the chrome material. Before setting up the plastic material, I want to separate the parts that won't have the subdivision surface modifier. The plastic material is just as simple as the chrome material. I assign the glass material. The windows will have slightly darker glass. Now, let's move on to the car paint material. First, I'll use a noise node to add the base paint material. Then I'll add a clear coat and apply a slight orange peel effect to it. Next, I create noise using a Voronoi texture to achieve a metallic effect. Now, I'll make some adjustments to the model to make the glass look more realistic. Now I'll make the plastic less rough. I'll make a few more adjustments to the model for my needs. I will set the plates behind the glass to have 0 IOR and high roughness. The interior will have the same plastic material as I created earlier. The interior is basic and not detailed. Now, I'll apply a carbon texture to the car's rear wing. I need to create a small bevel on the edges so the subdivision surface modifier doesn't pull the texture. Before applying the carbon texture, I will create a basic unwrap in Blender. I mark the edges that will be set as seams. It's really simple. Just select the edges, right-click, and choose Mark Seam. After that, I unwrap the model. I'll come back to the car's unwrapping later when I unwrap the body in Rizom-UV. I found the carbon texture in the free Blender kit add-on. The carbon texture applied very well to the front part without the need for unwrapping. Now I want to mirror the wheels to the other side. very important not to forget to mirror the emblem after the mirror modifier. That's it, it's all ready. Now I can start exporting the model to Rizom-UV. Since I only want to apply decals to the body, the first thing I need to do is apply the subdivision surface modifier. I see that one part of the body was previously subdivided using the subdivision surface modifier. So I separate it and apply one iteration to the other parts to make the polygon mesh more uniform. After that, I apply another iteration of the subdivision surface modifier to the entire body. The car body model is ready for export to Rizom-UV. But first, a few words on why I won't be unwrapping it in Blender. Blender provides good tools for unwrapping objects, but only if I use add-ons like Zen-UV, UV Packmaster 3, Texel Density, and others. Vanilla Blender, without add-ons, is more suited for modeling. However, if you have the necessary knowledge, you can create a UV unwrap in Blender using add-ons. I'm sure many professionals do UV unwrapping in Blender. In this video, I'll show how to unwrap a car using Rizom-UV. The export will be in FBX format with the settings shown on the screen. It's important to specify in Blender that only the selected part should be exported. I open Rizom-UV and import the FBX file. First, I'll give a basic overview of the interface. As the video progresses, I will explain how the tools I use work. The screen in the program is divided into two parts. On the left is the model, and on the right is its UV unwrap. Since there is no unwrap yet, the model will be projected onto it. First, I want to unwrap the model without marking seams, so I'll immediately click on the Unwrap icon. If you press Alt plus left mouse button, you can rotate the camera around the part you hover over. If you hold Alt plus mouse wheel, you can pan the view, similar to Blender. You can zoom in and out using the mouse wheel scroll. In this section, we can see the selection methods: Vertex mode, Edge mode, Polygon mode, and Island and Groups mode. These allow us to select parts in different ways, working in both the model viewport and the UV unwrap window. You can switch between these tools using F1, F2, F3, and F4. On the right, there is a context menu, which will always be related to the tool currently in use. I will try to minimize stretching on the car's texture. If there is any stretching, it will be visible in the viewport as red or blue areas. Now I click on the symmetry icon. This way I can select edges on both sides at the same time. Now I cut the body to ensure that the seams are not visible and there are no texture distortions. I select edges by holding Shift or by double-clicking the left mouse button to select the entire edge loop. To cut the selected edges, I press the C key. After cutting, I start marking the edges that need to be straightened. This ensures that the texture will lay down evenly and the islands can be arranged neatly. Also, in the right side context menu, I enable options to ensure that the islands rotate only in 90-degree increments. Done. There are almost no distortions, and even if there are, they are barely noticeable or completely hidden, like on the headlights. These areas won't be visible, as they will be covered by the headlight internals. I import the file into Substance Painter with these settings. The preset is set to Blender. I set the document resolution to 4096. The interface is simpler. On the left, there are tools, and on the right, there are layers. In the center, there are two windows, just like in Rizom-UV. I will mainly work in the right window. The windows can be switched using the F1, F2, F3 keys. Substance Painter has procedural materials that create realistic effects like dirt, dust, or wear on beveled edges. However, if I apply such a material now, it won't work correctly. Substance Painter uses textures for these generators, but they are not available yet. I need to create them by baking the model. I'll go to the Bake Mesh Maps section and click on Bake Selected Textures. Now the generators will work correctly. First, I'll add a fill layer with a color. I'll keep only the color and rough channels. Then, I'll add a black mask which hides the color fill. After that, I'll add a brush to the mask so I can paint with white to reveal the blue color. I will be painting on this layer. Mostly I will use the Paint Along Path tool. So I am adding color fills to individual objects and selecting them. I will also enable the symmetry function so that the fill in my future actions affect the other side of the car as well. Now I'm adding a new layer to the mask. I select the Paint Along Path tool and cover the lower layer with the new one. I reduce the brush size and make it sharper. On the new layer, I add a brush and touch up the rest of the car. I duplicate the layer using the key TRL+D shortcut to create a parallel line. I frequently change colors and experiment with different shapes, so I'll speed up this part. I'll add a fill layer with red color to make it easier to distinguish other layers. Now I want to show how to add a decal non-destructively. I added a fill layer which will serve as my decal color. Then I add a black mask and a fill to the mask. In the fill, I add a square alpha and change the projection to planar so I can move the decal around. Now I add my alpha with the name Porsche. This decal is added only for this project, and I mark it as an alpha. I duplicate the layer with these decals and move them to the other side. I want to create the car paint in Blender and apply the decal I made in Substance Painter on top of it. For this, I need information about the alpha channel. I enable the opacity channel in all the layers I previously created. Now I create a new layer with only the opacity channel enabled, so that the texture I export will be black and white. In the latest versions of Substance Painter, the export to Blender has been greatly improved. So I simply select the Blender preset and export all the maps. I delete any empty maps that I don't need. To import the texture into Blender, we need the UV mapping that we previously created in Rizom-UV. The UV map was automatically saved in the FBX file when it was edited in Rizom-UV, so I import the car body FBX file into Blender. Now I need to add the texture I created in Substance Painter. Using the free add-on Node Wrangler, I add the textures with the shortcut Ctrl+Shift+T. I disable the black and white texture from the alpha channel and connect it to the Mix Shader node. This texture serves as a mask, with the white areas showing where the decal will appear, and the black areas showing where the car's paint will be visible. Now I'll show how I create decals using geometry in Blender. I separate this geometry, and later I'll apply the shrink wrap modifier to project this geometry. I also add text to project it as well. I use the Knife Project tool to cut the numbers into this geometry. After applying the shrink wrap modifier, the decal casts shadows and re-reflects. This can be fixed by disabling the glossy option in the ray visibility settings. Now I do the same thing on the other side of the car. Now I will show another method of applying decals in Blender. This time I will add a plane with a PNG image on it. Since this image is essentially an object with a texture applied to it, I subdivide it into many polygons, and then, just like before, I project it onto the car using the shrink wrap modifier and turn off the shadows. Now, using the same method, I will add this text to the brake pads. Done! Now you know new ways to add decals to your car. Be sure to rate this video and leave a comment. Thanks for watching.